What's up? What's up? It's DIY the Grappler back on the scene for another video. Appreciate all the comments. I've been getting, multiple, suggestions and requests for a detailed, dry pour video. So here we go. You got a rake right here, shovel, hand tamper, for compacting. You got your good old bada bing, bada boom. You got your roller, your screed, the Marshalltown screed. You could use a 2x4. You're going to need some 2x4s for your forms. That's one thing I didn't actually show. I should have. Then you got your concrete. This right here is going to be 4,000 PSI, with that mix. You got your sand mix. It's 5,000 PSI. You got a drill for your forms. You got a mask. You got some off in case you're in Florida, like I am with these, dang mosquitoes. You got you got your edger, you got your rubber mallet to hit the sides, your edger. I guess I'm a little bit ahead of the video right here with my talking. This one got the, it's a little scooped up, little scoobity-doo-bop for that one. You got your mallet right there. You got your screws. You don't have to use those. You can use any kind. I've been using those because they're so strong. They're like reusable. Good old shovel. Good old, axe or whatever you want to call it. No, it's not an axe. Well, it's kind of missing me right now. It's a little, just in case you have some roots, some rebar. Like I said, some of this stuff's optional. I didn't even put rebar in any of this. All this is practice for the driveway. Then you're going to need your deal right here. Boom. You got the shower. You got the mist. So yeah, man, look, all I'm really doing, like I said, I'm not an expert. All I'm doing is I'm blending everything I've learned from everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Plus doing some other research of, some scientific, things that are going on with the concrete and then trying to, implement that into this little style. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not claiming to invent any of this stuff. I didn't. But what I did was gathered a gang of information and blended it together, kind of blended it together with this compacting, problem solving, compacting for the air pockets and air voids that come up to the top that create spalling and scaling and, the water curing. Man, water curing is very important. I know I'm kind of beating a dead bush with this water curing thing, man, but do some research. You got the creating concrete. This guy's steady talking about water curing. You have other guy, Tyler Lay. This guy's like a concrete professor talking about, water curing, and you can just research it yourself, burlap curing, ponding. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off subject here. So here, this is the most kind of like I said, just leveling it out, especially my backyard. It's all over the place. There's this quote from Abraham Lincoln. He goes, "If you give me 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 6 hours sharpening the axe." So pretty much like that's kind of what, even though that's not what I want to do, I was kind of forced to do this, is you got to prepare before the fun part of laying it down and doing the deal. You got to prepare. So, I didn't want to spend, bore you too much of me leveling everything out. It took a little while, not too long, but it took me, some time to get it perfect not perfect, but where I want it to be, where it's pretty much level with the ground, level with the other slabs/pavers. Then I'm going to go ahead and compact the ground. That's what you're going to want to do anyway for other styles of things. If you think about, if you're laying pavers, you're still compacting the ground. Concrete, you're compacting the ground. You want a solid base. You don't want to lay concrete on a base where it starts to, over time, starts to fade. And then now this is where some extra cracking's coming into place. Watering the ground, not only for the concrete. What happens is you water the ground and then it's easier to compact also. It's almost like turns into like this mud and then it sinks down. And so I spent some time compacting. I'm not sure exactly how much time, but enough where I felt solid enough where I'm like, I like this. So there's two different things that's happening with the water. I'm watering the ground to help compact. Two, I'm watering to start, hydrating this concrete. This hydration process is everything. Water is so important. I'm finding out when it comes to concrete. Without water, there is no concrete. There is concrete because it's dry, but there is no, consolidation of concrete without this water. So, water is so important, man. I know right now I'm about to start getting off subject, But water is like, man, it keeps us alive. Without water, we would die. You know what I'm saying? Without water, we think that it's soft. We take it for granted. Water can crash like Bruce Lee. Water can keep you alive. Water can kill you. Water can take shape of any form. And I know this isn't a video about water, but anyway, bada bing, bada boom. I'm back to the subject here of using your rake. Like I said, all these tools aren't exactly necessary. You could always improvise. You know what I'm saying? You could always improvise. I'm sure the Romans didn't have, they probably had rakes. I don't know what they had, but I'm sure they had to improvise also. So, good old rake just to start leveling out this, that bottom layer of the dry pour concrete here. And that's it. You're probably going to be a little bored. Like, all right, look, I'm watching this guy just level it out. What's so crazy is that I'm that guy also. I go on there and I watch dry pour videos from like beginning to end. And I'm like, damn it. I'm 43. I'm about to be 44. I'm like, am I in a midlife crisis? Like, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I sitting here watching dry pour videos to the end? But it's interesting. You know what I'm saying? It's a new thing. It's like a new hobby. It's almost like an art. Like, I kind of like it. I like it. It's like I'm creating art almost. And the guy creating concrete does that. That's exactly what he does. He creates a bunch of art and stuff like this. He's cool. Like I said, the thing is that he's creating this art, but he's talking a lot about like the scientific, the hydration, the water curing from 1 to 3 days. So this compacting, I believe that this compacting is very important because of these air pockets. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm going over and over. And, thank you for everybody. I have Jessica Long and you have another guy, DL. I forgot what the rest of it was and some other ones. These guys, they've kind of been supporting a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then they request, hey man, can you get a detailed deal? I kind of like the way you're doing it. Like I said, I didn't invent any of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? More or less, I'm just combining everybody's style kind of together and along with this other information. So this compacting, I'm trying to avoid and take away air pockets. Right here, I got the mask on. I would very highly suggest wearing a mask. So this step is definitely not necessary. Like I said, I'm, getting rid of these pavers. They're concrete pavers. So what I do is I just kind of wedge them in there. They're concrete anyway. You know what I'm saying? They're concrete. I'm wedging them in there to make sure there's no air pockets under them, air voids under them, popping up. The rest, every single slab has these in there. I almost feel like the Jeffrey Dahmer, like, you know what I'm saying? Like a Jeffrey Dahmer, even though I'm not a Jeffrey Dahmer kind of guy, but Jeffrey Dahmer, or there's some kind of serial killer where I'm like hiding these pavers inside of, anyway, I know that, whatever. That's kind of, so there's another story, man. I had this, something was gone. Anyway, never mind. Let me not even talk about that. But, yeah, so this step isn't even really necessary. Well, anyway, let me tell you about it. So we had this smell going on. I had this dead, like I thought it was a squirrel in the attic. So I'm like, man, what's that smell? So we call an exterminator. Buddy goes inside the attic, right? And he's inside the attic and he's halfway up in the attic. So I'm on the ladder now with my head poked in the attic. And I'm like, he's already all the way down there and is, on his hands and knees crawling through the attic. And it's like, he's deep in there. So he's kind of trapped. I'm like, hey man, check this out. You ever seen that Jeffrey Dahmer thing on Netflix? And Buddy turned around like, I was like, oh man, let me just change the subject. I don't want to make it awkward. So anyway, back to this dry pour. So boom, I got the pavers in there. I'm trying to make sure they're solid. I kind of don't want them wibbling and wobbling because of the fact that if they're kind of, wobbling all over the place, that there's going to be air pockets in there. So I make sure I wedge them. And I've done this, with all of them. Like I said, this isn't necessary. This is just me trying to get rid of these pavers. Because that's kind of what was on the ground before was these pavers. Like old pavers came with the house. I'm like, you know what? I kind of don't like to waste things. And I'm like, man, it's cool. It actually saves a little space with the concrete. It's been working fine. All the other slabs are solid. And if you notice on the slab here, and I'll show later on in the video, man, I kind of, I don't know if I messed it up or not, but that was the best one I ever made in my life. The one with the level on it here. And what I did was I bought this sanding stone. It's like made for like sand. So I tried to sand down the edges and I'm not too happy. It doesn't look the greatest because I was trying to match every other slab because I have to kind of round the edges off. So I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and sand these edges down, and I'm not too happy. But it's all good. Bada bing, bada boom. It's going to get painted. All these are going to get painted. They're all ultimately to make my way to the driveway. I wanted to match the one behind it because, the edges are rounded, and I kind of just threw it off a little bit. But it is what it is. So, like I said, it's still a learning process. I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just gathering a gang of knowledge, putting it together. And I really appreciate that people are even, watching this and being like, hey, check this out, man. Can you do this and do that? So I know there's a bunch of videos. Like I said, there's so many videos on dry pour where, people actually ask me to make a detailed, video. I was like, oh man, that's cool. There's so many out there. I'm like, man, you want to see me make one? No problem. I'm a problem solver. I like to help people also. If I could help somebody make, a dry pour. Anyway, so boom, we're back. So the deal's on top of the deal. You don't see the pavers. I did this in my last video where you can pack. So I'm huge with this compacting. So if I just go from here, there's air pockets in there. There's air pockets, air voids. And we got to think about longevity. That's what a lot of the concrete guys would be like, oh yeah, it's all good now, but what's going to happen later? I kind of agree. It's like, we got to look for longevity. How long is this going to last? And that's my main thing, is that, so this compacting, compacting, water curing. So not only do I want to make the dry pour strong, which I feel like these slabs are real strong. So look how far it went back down again. I know I said this in other videos. If you haven't seen it, it went down. So that means if it goes down, that there's air pockets. And that if there's air pockets inside these dry pours, even in wet pour, they're going to go to the top. They're going to make their way to the top, and they're going to burst. And then what happens is when they burst, now you have these holes and spalling. You have a rough surface where you can kind of mitigate that. You can kind of reduce that or help stop that by compacting. So here's the good old sand mix, 5,000 PSI. So the concrete I'm using is 4,000 PSI. And there's a certain amount of mix in there. You have your rocks, you have your bigger aggregate, which is your rocks, you have your fine aggregate, which is your sand, and then you have your cement, which is like the glue that glues everything together. So you got to remember, there's like a certain amount in each bag for each mix. So that's why I prefer to use this sand mix, is because basically they say it's like concrete without the rocks, but it has the right mixture, it has the right amount of cement and sand. Remember, cement is weak. Cement alone is weak. And I made that mistake in my first one where I poured like straight cement on top and it was like flaking off. And some of it was all right, some wasn't. But over time, like, it's going to, eventually it's not going to be that strong. So anyway, that's why I like to prefer this. I got that from Teddy Zane, was putting the mortar on top. Like I said, some high level concrete guy that end up, disappearing and taking away his comments. He suggested this and I'm with it. I really like this sand mix. It's made for that. It's made, like I said, it's made for capping concrete. It's made for elevating your concrete. It's made for fixing concrete. So it's made for that. It's perfect. It's the same color, even the gray. Even though I'm going to paint everything like I'm just beating a dead bush at this point. So I'm screeding. Good old screed. You don't have to use the Marshalltown deal right here. I don't even think it was that much. I got water all over me, so, don't pay attention to that too much. Bunch of water from, just hosing things off and this and that. So this is what it looks like when it's screeding. I would say take your time. It's not going to be screeded perfect on the first time. And maybe I probably didn't videotape everything. I'm kind of going by the process, but I might have screeded. I did, not even might. I screeded it a few times until I was happy. You know what I'm saying? So right here, what I'm doing is I'm taking off the edges. So now I'm using this edger, like, Cajun Country, their technique, where I'm using the edger, but I've been learning that when there's too much on the side, it folds in, you don't get a clean edge. So, right here, that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking off the excess off the side. So when I do edge it, all the excess doesn't just crumble back in. That's what threw me off, I believe, the first time I ever tried it, probably on slab number 1 or number 2. I was like, look, it's not even working. I mentioned that in the last video also, where I'm like, it's not working. Now I realize, well, if you clean up the sides, then as soon as you start edging, it just folds in nice and neat. You know what I'm saying? Nice and neat, man. So, yeah, like I said, I didn't invent any of this stuff. I'm not an expert. I'm just gathering a gang of knowledge here. And that's it. I like this problem. Anyway, I was at the gym earlier. Like I said, my guy has a fight coming up. So I'm back coaching. I mean, I coach anyway. I'm teaching all during the week. Saturdays, we go, the guys get their rounds in. I put my guys through some work, man. I'm really huge into sports psychology, the mind. So, man, I make them do, 10 5-minute rounds, I know this is way off subject right here. You're probably like, hey, check this out. I'm doing the dry pour. So right here, I'm doing the edging. I'm taking my time doing the edging. I went over it multiple times until I was happy with it. But I make my guys do 10 5-minute rounds. It's rough. It's more of a mind thing. So when you're getting deep into the rounds, I'm like, look, it's not even about the sparring at this point, punching and kicking, grappling. It's a mental thing. besides the point. So we're back. So here, man, the edging. I love it. The edging. I shouldn't have, man. Oh, I grinded the edges on the corners. I was like, you know what? I wanted to kind of match. Let me see. Let me see if like you can see it real quick on this little edge. You can see the closest one to you. See how it's kind of grinded down. I was like, you know what? Let me grind it down. Let me match the others. I just ain't too happy with it. Anyway, so I'm back with the roller, the good old roller, cross hatching. You know, I didn't cross hatch quite yet, but I'm going over one way, you know, like this. If we want to call that north and south, then you go east and west. You know what I'm saying? East and west. Not putting a gang. Me personally, I don't like to put a gang of pressure in it because sometimes it'll dip into the mix. Oh man, I don't even know if I must have not even put that part in the video. I think I skipped. I had a bunch of little clips where I hit the side with a rubber mallet and it compacted even more. It went down. So I did it with the hand tamper, then I hit it with the mallet, and it must have not been in here. So I know it's supposed to be detailed. My bad. Try to go ahead and before you start finishing, because I believe I'm at the finishing at this point, is hit it with the rubber mallet. Even when you feel like it's done, I think I screeded it. That's what happened. It must have been, I don't know what happened, But anyway, I screeded it. I did the screed, and then I hit it more, and then it went down. I'm like mid editing. I'm like, dang, I should go. Yeah. So, we're back here. So bang, that's it. It's done at this point. It's rolled. Got the picture framing deal. It's all right. Last time I was like, I'm not sure. But see, I kind of grinded down the edges on here, man. Not the edges, the corners of that other one. I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I was trying to get to match the other ones because the other ones are kind of rounded off. But anyway, bada bing, bada boom. It's looking clean. Got the sand mix on top, 5,000 PSI. Used the edger. The edger from Cajun Country, 5,000 PSI from some like unknown concrete guy. Here's the misting, the water curing. So the water curing process has started, the hydration process. This is very important, this hydration process, because how they say it, because I was like wondering, okay, dry pour, wet pour, this and that. What happens is that they say that there's rock-like fingers that grow out of the cement and wrap around the rock and the sand. But after I'm talking about, so you even wet pour. So this information is for wet pour. After it's done, it's already wet. Remember, you mixed it; it's already wet. The whole deal. That once you start, after it's set, you broom finished it, you troweled it, you mag floated it. Like I said, you bull floated it. Whatever you had to do to it, it's done. Right when it's done, that's when the water curing process starts, or the curing. There's different kind of curing. There's steam curing, ponding. There's burlap curing. That's what I'm using, a burlap type of curing, where it's like you put a wet cloth and then you water it, and then it continues this hydration process. So the hydration process, after it's finished, that is where the magic takes place. That's where those fingers grow out, start wrapping around stuff. What happens is they say if you let it dry out too much, too early, that the concrete's dead. It's done. It won't go nowhere. It might look good and it might be kind of strong. Like it might be all right, but even wet pour, I'm talking about wet pour, it's not going to be as strong as at its 100% potential. They said you can't revive it. So that's why they say, I'm not making this up. It's not me. That's what they say, the experts. That's why water curing is so important, because if it dries out too much, that the concrete's dead, that even if you water it, it's not going to come back to life. So during this time, they say, water curing after 3 days of water curing. So not just curing, not like I watered it and I let it just be. 3 days of water curing, it reaches 40% of its potential. 7 days, it reaches 70% of its potential. Then they say keep on curing it for 28 days. So now they say this burlap, they say keep the burlap on for about 7 days, meaning like this wet. See, I got the towel on here. The wet towel keeps it moist, and I didn't even wait that long. I just bisted it down a couple times, touched it. It was kind of, it got hard, and I'm like, you know what? Let me put the burlap on there. Now the burlap, remember, it's saving you time, and it's doing a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's saving us time. So anyway, they say keep the burlap or whatever you got on there for 7 days. Then after the 7 days, continue to water it. Continue to water it. Okay, here is where I'm at. I'm like, all right, let me grind down the edges or, the corners. I'm like, yeah, let me match the other ones. And I'm like, I should never have. I kind of was like, my work of art is just, I'm like, what did I do? Let me grind down these corners. I'm like, I shouldn't have. It's all good because when I paint it, and do the whole deal. I was trying to get to match these. I'm like, maybe if I just, the other ones were, let me try to, bada bing, bada boom. It's all good. It's going to get painted. There's going to be rocks, like decorative rocks in between. It's going to be solid, you know. So here, man, here's a detailed video for you. I should have never, ever did I was over here like, let me try to match up and I shouldn't have done it, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it will match, and then it'll get painted, and I'll try to smooth it out. I bought this like high level, like not high level, but this stone grinder thing, So I got an angle grinder, but I got this like handheld fine point deal. So anyways, that's it, man. Appreciate it. Here's your detailed video. Feel free to leave some comments, subscribe. Peace.